The sound of cruel laughter filled the fancy art gallery. It was loud and mean, making everyone look over. Victor Hale, a rich businessman, stood pointing at a small girl. She was only 10 years old and held a paintbrush in her tiny hands. Her name was Alina, and she looked scared but brave at the same time. Next to her stood her mother, Naomi Brooks. Naomi wore a simple cleaning uniform and held her cleaning supplies tightly. Victor smiled in a nasty way and pointed at the blank canvas. "Paint something better than my expensive painting," he said with a mean laugh, "and I'll give you $100 million. He laughed again, thinking this was just a fun way to make fun of the poor cleaner and her child. But what happened next would make the whole room go quiet and change the rich man's heart forever. Before I tell you more of this amazing story, I want to stop for a moment. If you believe in being kind, in giving people chances, and in the power of regular people to do great things, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. It really helps us keep sharing these wonderful stories that touch hearts and change lives. The man's name was Victor Hale. Everyone in the city knew him as a mean businessman who loved to hurt people he thought were not important. He had built his company by being cruel, fighting in meetings, and destroying his enemies without caring. To him, life was just a game and money was how you kept score. That day, when he saw the cleaning lady trying to do her work while watching her daughter wait in the corner, he saw a chance to have some fun. He called them over, his smile sharp and cruel, and made this crazy challenge. To him, it was just entertainment. To them, it was a moment that could change their whole life. The cleaning lady's name was Naomi Brooks, and life had been very hard to her. She had once wanted to become an art teacher, but bad things happened and she had to focus on just surviving. Her husband had left her years ago, leaving her alone with her daughter, Alina. Every day was hard work just to keep their small apartment, to make sure Alina had food to eat, and to keep her daughter happy even when the world was so tough. But even with all these problems, Naomi had given everything she could to help her daughter love art and learning. And Alina, with her quiet strength, had fallen in love with painting and drawing. Naomi often worked very late, coming home tired, only to find Alina sitting at their old kitchen table, small hands holding cheap paintbrushes she had bought from a dollar store. Sometimes Alina painted by herself, talking quietly to her artwork as if it could hear her. Other times, she waited until Naomi could sit with her, teaching her mother painting tricks she had learned from free art books at the library. Art became their way to escape. It was something where winning wasn't about money or being rich, but about practice, creativity, and imagination. So when Victor Hale leaned forward, laughing as he made fun of them, Naomi's heart felt scared, but also felt a tiny bit of hope. She wanted to say no to protect her daughter from this cruel man. But Alina's small hand reached out and touched hers. With calm eyes, the little girl whispered, "I can do this, Mom." The contest began. The art gallery became quiet as people started to notice. Visitors walking around slowed down. People looking at paintings turned to watch, and the soft sounds of footsteps faded into silence. It was like the whole room was holding its breath. Victor pointed to his expensive painting on the wall. It was a fancy artwork that cost millions of dollars. "Beat that," he said with a smirk, thinking it was impossible for a child to create anything better. Alina looked at the blank canvas in front of her. She picked up her simple paintbrush and dipped it into the basic paint colors. The rich man chuckled, shaking his head. "This will be easy," he said quietly. But Alina wasn't worried. She started to paint with careful, thoughtful strokes. Naomi stood behind her, her heart beating fast with every minute that passed. People gathered around to watch, each brushstroke pulling them deeper into this silent battle. Victor's expensive painting was technically perfect, painted by a famous artist, while Alina worked on something completely different with her simple supplies. Slowly, something beautiful began to appear on Alina's canvas. It wasn't fancy or perfect like Victor's painting, but it had something his didn't have: heart. She painted a picture of her and her mother, sitting together at their kitchen table, sharing a simple meal. The love in the painting was so real that people started to gasp. Memories of nights spent at that kitchen table flashed through Naomi's mind. She remembered her daughter's hard work, The way she never gave up even when her paintings didn't turn out right, and the joy in her eyes when she finally created something beautiful. Naomi felt tears coming as she realized all those nights, all those struggles, had been leading to this very moment. Victor became nervous, his hands gripping the wall tightly. He was not a man who lost, not in business, not in contests, not in life. Yet here he was, watching a child create something with more soul than his million-dollar artwork. Alina stepped back from her canvas, setting down her paintbrush. "I'm finished," she said softly. The words hung in the air like thunder. Gasps came from everyone around the room. Victor's face turned white, his confident look disappearing. He looked at both paintings, his expensive one and Alina's simple but beautiful one. The difference was clear to everyone. His painting was perfect but cold. Alina's painting was simple but full of love, hope, and real human emotion. One final look and the contest was over. The room stayed quiet for a moment. Then slowly, the art gallery filled with clapping. Strangers stood up, applauding the little girl who had just beaten a billionaire with nothing but heart and talent. Tears filled Naomi's eyes as she knelt down next to her daughter, hugging her tight. She whispered, "I'm so proud of you," her voice shaking with emotion. Victor stood still, his hands hanging at his sides. For the first time in years, he had been beaten not by another rich person, but by a child whose strength came not from money, but from love and creativity. In that moment, something changed inside him. The laughter, the meanness, the cruel fun, all of it fell apart. He looked at the girl and her mother, and shame filled his heart. In a broken voice, he said quietly, "You won." He reached into his jacket, pulling out his expensive checkbook. His hand shook as he wrote the amount, $100 million, and signed his name. He pushed it across the small table, but Naomi hesitated, staring at it with wide eyes. Money had never been what mattered. The real victory was her daughter's amazing talent and brave heart. Still, she knew what this meant. A chance to change their lives forever, to finally live without worrying about tomorrow. Tears ran down Naomi's cheeks as she took the check with shaking hands. Around them, the clapping got louder, not just for the money, but for the moment itself, a reminder that greatness can come from anywhere and that sometimes the smallest people have the biggest hearts. If this story has touched your heart, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Together, we can spread stories that remind the world about strength, courage, and the power of believing in yourself.